It's a really great metaphor just for the idiocy of war itself. And of course, it's just gorgeous. And the cast is spectacular.
I'm sorry to be that party pooper, but every party needs one. And I'm here to be that pooper.
That guy, he's sneaky, he's creepy, he's so terrifying in this movie.
And welcome back. It is Fright Club. It is Fright Club Live. Gateway Film Center, The Ohio State University. Welcome. This is our monthly little shindig. It's a party. It's a do. It's Fright Club Live. And we're glad to be back as we are talking about we got a new subject, we got a new movie, we got a new short film to show.
That's right.
But first things first, how many people have already seen Longlegs? Two. One? This guy has?
Well,
two. Okay.
Two.
Yeah, it's
well, wait, quick. How many of you are planning to see Longlegs? Right. So
there we go.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is planning to see Longlegs.
It's been the big talk, and we're certainly not going to spoil anything for anybody.
And just a
but
couple months
we
back,
liked it very much.
Just a couple months back, our podcast was the best horror films by Nicolas Cage, best Nick Cage horror films. Of course, obviously, before Longlegs came out, we would have to reevaluate the list at this point.
Yeah, we enjoyed it very much, and later on, when everybody has seen it, maybe we can discuss. But, I was just curious because I know a lot of people, including us, have been really looking forward to it, and it does not disappoint. So with that out of the way, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com. Welcome back to Fright Club Live. This month, we're talking about The Shadow of War in horror. We've got a great film that showcases that.
We do.
But first, we talk about last time, and it was threequels.
That's right.
The best third installments. And I think it was mainly me that raised the ire of people because a lot of the franchise slasher part threes didn't get in.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that when you say that, right, the third installment of a horror franchise, you immediately think of like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and these franchises that have the like 10, 11, 12, 13 episodes. But there are actually quite a few franchises that have fewer that maybe didn't spring to mind. Like one of the things that just made it into the podcast was Day One, A Quiet Place, which maybe not everybody would have thought of.
Yeah.
And I liked our list. A lot of people we knew going in, we apologize in advance, Halloween 3.
Right.
And it's funny that every year, people are always like, the most underappreciated, my ass, that movie's underappreciated. Everybody I know, in fact, somebody that we know and love has a tattoo.
Yeah.
Of Halloween 3. Everybody loves that movie. So, but it didn't make the list, not because one of us likes it, but there are very, very many.
Yep.
The one that got a lot of attention that I guess I hadn't realized had overcome its early hate to become a beloved, which is Alien 3. A lot of people were sorry not to have
over the years
that discussed.
Has gotten more love. That is right. And a lot of people were bringing up Dream Warriors, which, no. I'm sorry to be that party pooper, but every party needs one. And I'm here to be that pooper. Thank you.
And then and our friend Dustin was really sorry that Ghoulies 3 didn't make the list. And it did not. But I do, just for a second, I want to say Dustin and his wife Michelle have had a really shit summer so far, and we just want to let them know that we love them, and we're sorry that things have not been going great for them, and we hope that the rest of the summer really picks up.
And I can hear them saying, well, not enough to put Ghoulies 3 on the list.
If you really loved us.
But yeah, no, that is true. We send our thoughts out to them in California. So thank you for all the feedback. We love getting it, good and bad. People arguing. That shows the passion for the subject, and we like that. And we mention again, because it's a pretty new partnership, with Ginger Nuts of Horror.
Right. It's the coolest website. If you don't already follow Ginger Nuts of Horror, you should do it right away. It's gnofhorror.com. And they just love horror. And they have loads, not only reviews of horror films, to which we contribute, as do the rest of the Mad Wolf writers, but a lot of book reviews, horror book reviews.
Yep.
I always look there because I'm not as on top of horror books as I am movies. So I always look to them to sort of help me figure out what the next book is that I'm going to read. They have a lot of articles by and about horror writers. It's just a great website, and we're really, really honored to partner with them. As part of the sort of Fright Club team.
Yep, love it. So check them out. We appreciate Jim and the crew there for getting us involved in that partnership. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about Shadow of War in horror, and you do have a couple of ground rules.
That's right. There are two. One is that it's not like an active war, right? It's not like battlefields and war. It's really like how war, like the looming presence of war, either just before or just after, how that translates into the horror of the film, and also no Nazi zombies. Partly because we've already done a whole show on Nazi zombies, so this is we're not going to include any of them.
Okay,
maybe we'll link to the Nazi zombie episode in case somebody listens and that's really what they were hoping for. But we did already cover that.
Yeah, that's fair. Link to that. Give them their love. But that's only two. That's not bad.
No.
2 ground rules. So we've got 5, but we have a few others that merit a mention.
Yes. I was actually a little bit surprised when I started thinking about this topic, how many movies really, fit the bill. And one of the ones that I thought from the beginning was going to make the list is Dead Birds, which, if you haven't seen, is Civil War era sort of ghost story heist film with the most stunning cast. And it's really quite creepy. The digital effects are very much of the time, which kind of pull you out of it. But Michael Shannon pulls you right back in. So I always liked Dead Birds. The Last Circus, which we have shown before, is a great one that I thought was going to make the list. I didn't think this was going to make the list, but I knew that it had to be mentioned because it exists because of a Serbian film. I'm not necessarily recommending it. If you think you would like it, then watch it. But you won't, so don't.
Well, every time it comes up, though, we always say, look, it has a point.
It does.
And it certainly has to do with war.
And we don't hate it, but we would not watch it again.
Right. But it's worth mentioning because it does have a point that it's making, and its extreme methods of doing that, which once you get into it, you can kind of understand.
Yep.
But yeah, everybody knows it's an infamous movie, and if it's not your bag, I totally understand.
Right, and it's probably not. The Others, right, the Nicole Kidman movie, so much of that exists because of the war, and it's a great movie. It's a great movie. It's such a great atmospheric film. Nicole Kidman is amazing in that movie. And then the other one that really, I went back and forth, honestly, with number 5 on here, and this one, La Llorona, the Guatemalan one from 2019. So there are 3 or 4 films with La Llorona in the title, and most of them suck. But the Guatemalan film from 2019, it is like atrocities of war coming back to haunt someone, and it's really quite good. And so it almost made the list.
La Llorona 3 Dream Warriors. That's one. What? Stop it. And you know what I just thought of when we were talking about Serbian film that we didn't have on here? The Painted Bird.
Oh, yeah, that's
speaking of a very, very tough watch.
Yeah,
Woo!
That's a tough watch and also
but good and
war.
incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
If the things that it show can be beautiful, the cinematography in that movie is insane.
Yes.
But I just thought of that one just now. So those.
And thanks for bringing it up because I had finally put it out of my head.
Yeah, it's 3 hours too, man. It's a grind.
It is.
So that's the mentions, the honorable mentions.
That's right.
But we got to get moving because it's a Fright Club Live, so we're on the clock. So let's get up to our number 5, and this is from 1999. In a remote military outpost in the 19th century, Captain John Boyd and his regiment embark on a rescue mission, which takes a dark turn when they are ambushed by a sadistic cannibal in Ravenous.
We have 4 missing soldiers, Captain, and no bodies. We need a supportable explanation.
It's an old Indian myth from the north.
Man eats the flesh of another. He absorbs the other man's strength.
Now, one man must choose
We need others.
between having dinner
Not me.
and being dinner.
He was licking me!
Ravenous.
Bon appetit.
The tone of this trailer is so interesting because it really leans in to the humor of it. I mean, the famous voiceover there is almost making it seem like a madcap rom-com. He's licking me.
That's the best scene in the whole movie, though. That is so great. Robert Carlyle is just exceptional in this movie.
He is.
He's just sinister fun. He's enjoying himself. He's toying with them. And Guy Pearce is also, he's a great like the straight man counterpart to that. He does a really good job as this, because he's a coward. This is set, it's not Civil War. I think it might be the War of 1812.
It was the 1847 Mexican-American War.
Mexican-American War. And he was a coward, and this is why he wound up at this outpost. Yeah, Jeffrey Jones, boo! And we know why he was there, because he's a horrible, horrible human being. Anyway, and it's funny, it's a far superior movie. But when we saw The Revenant, the scenes when they get back to the camp made me think of this. And I'm like thinking to myself, I don't know, DiCaprio might have really made it out okay, to be honest with you, because nobody ate him.
Right.
But this is such a fun movie. And Antonia Bird directed this, who had done Mad Love, right? Is that what that's called? The one with, oh my God, the one with Alan Rickman. Is it called Mad Love? It might be called Mad Love. Truly, madly, deeply. Thank you very much, Katie. You can always count on a librarian to bail you out.
Darn right.
So Antonia Bird, who had done Truly, Madly, Deeply, you would never have guessed from that. It's like this really beloved romantic comedy, a very smart one. You would never have guessed that she had a cannibal Western in her, but she did.
And she only stepped in because originally the director was Milko Manchevsky. But 2 weeks into the production was fired, and Robert Carlyle reached out to Antonia Bird and got her in there. Yeah,
nice.
So not the original director.
Well, she did a great job. It looks amazing, and the tone is one where you can sort of tell from the trailer. You're just surprised the whole time that she pulls off the tone of this movie, and she really does, because it's very creepy and it's got a great cast.
Yeah, and you mentioned Guy Pearce. He's in about every scene, but it's almost a half an hour before he utters his first sentence of dialogue.
Right.
About a half an hour in the movie, but he's constantly in the movie, in the scenes. But you're right, Robert Carlyle just steals it.
He does.
Just steals it for good reason.
And I'm just gonna say this more for my sister Joy than anybody, but 1999 Guy Pearce, hubba hubba. You're like, yes.
This is. Would you lick him? This is. It's partially and loosely based on the Donner Party, of course. Everybody's heard of that disaster of 1847, and also,
unless you don't like The Shining,
and also the legend of Alfred Packer, known as the Colorado Cannibal.
Ooh.
So you could look him up. And also loosely based on this movie. So yeah, if you can talk about a cannibal movie being just fun, there it is. It's Ravenous, 1999.
Eating Raoul also.
Exactly. So that's number 5, Ravenous from 1999. Moving up to number 4, this is 1990 on our Shadow of War list. Mourning his dead child, a haunted Vietnam veteran attempts to uncover his past while suffering from a severe case of disassociation. To do so, he must decipher reality and life from his own dreams, delusions, and perceptions of death. Jacob's Ladder.
Let me look at your hand. You have a very strange line. See, according to this, you're already dead.
Something's wrong, Jake. They're coming after me. I don't know who they are or what they are, but they're gonna get me, and I'm scared, Jake.
I've seen them too.
Maybe the demons are real.
He's running 106 feet.
This is barbaric.
I can get rid of the demons.
Who are you?
I can block the ladder. Where are you taking me? Where am I?
Where do you want to go?
Home.
This is your home. You're dead.
I'm not dead.
What are you then?
I'm alive.
This is less of a good time.
Right.
This is a really affecting film, though. And one of the reasons I think that it works as well as it does is that Tim Robbins, as big as he is, and they really make the most of his just sort of ungainly size, he's so vulnerable in every scene that he's in that you're just worried for him.
Yeah, very, very atmospheric. And Adrian Lyne had all the effects filmed live, none in post-production, and they are creepy.
They are super
looking.
creepy.
I mean,
Right.
I think everybody thinks about the shaking faces and things like that, but especially when you get to the end and the big reveal, which we're not going to give away in case anybody hasn't seen it, it looks everything looks like he's in a dream or a nightmare or a half-alive type of state, which is perfect with what they're trying to do.
Yes.
In a disassociated state. And I think it really works in its favor that they did it that way.
I absolutely do. And I also think, and I think this every so often, we need to do a whole episode on subways. There's a lot of creepy shit that happens in horror movies in subways.
Yeah. The 6th inch or the footlock? Oh, I'm sorry. Inside joke.
And it's funny to me, too, aside from the party scene, which is a great scene, the dance sequence, it's a great scene. But aside from that scene, that sequence, I would not peg this as an Adrian Lyne film. And as a rule, I'm not a fan of his work, generally speaking, but I love this movie. I love everything about it. I love the way that it sort of flirts with being almost a police procedural. You know what I mean? You know, it flirts with, it's like, you know, at moments you think this is going to turn into an urban sort of investigative kind of thriller. And then no, because they're going to have these no faces shaking at you here in a second. And that's not what it's going to be.
Yeah.
He just keeps pulling you back into the fact that this is a horror film, and that, of course, the point in the end is that that's what war is. War is a horror film.
Yeah, and some of you gamers may know this movie was a major inspiration for the early games in the Silent Hill video games franchise. And one of the big changes that Adrian Lyne made to the original screenplay was early on, all the demons were typical biblical demons with hooves and horns and things like that. And Lyne felt that was almost comical. Wanted him to have much more of a human connection, which definitely I think you can see how that, with the story that they were trying to tell,
about
works much
war.
better.
Oh my God,
yes.
much better.
Yes.
Yeah,
works much better to go off than to go off in that devilish territory.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Although you do have again the dance scene where we have the big tail and stuff. That's different.
Yeah, that's as far as that goes. And also, we should mention the late Elizabeth Pena,
who is brilliant in this movie.
And that's one of the things that makes him, because she's pretty small.
Yeah, she
is. And he's, 6'5" or something. So, it makes him.
And she always is, she's in charge. She knows what's going on. And he always just seems like this big lug. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just delivering the mail. Yeah.
And the
fact he needs a haircut so bad.
He does. But the fact that he is so tall, so big and gangly, and still so frail to what's going on around him. That really works. But she's very good and gone too soon. Elizabeth Pena and Tim Robbins in Jacob's Ladder, and that is our number 4 on the Shadow of War list. Moving up to number 3. This has made a few lists that we've talked about here at Fright Club. This is from 2001. A 12-year-old whose father has died in the Spanish Civil War arrives at an ominous boys' orphanage. He discovers the school is haunted and has many dark secrets which he must uncover. It's Guillermo del Toro's The Devil's Backbone. Well, no surprise that Guillermo del Toro is on this list, because it seems like The Shadow of War really affects so much of his filmmaking, and he's a filmmaker that really wears his heart on his sleeve to good effect.
Right.
To very good effect. I mean, he gets it across in great ways, in subtle ways, but meaningful ways. And this is one that, the film's title, of course, refers to spina bifida. But the war, it actually shares a lot thematically, I think, with another movie that we're going to talk about here pretty soon that you can probably guess, because it's got this deals with the impending arrival of Franco, and some of the characters are wondering whether England and France are going to intercede and maybe save them from that. And there's also themes similar to that in the other movie that we're going to talk about. So The Shadow of War is always in the background, always enveloping the movie, as it does a lot of his films. But he's just so good at it.
Yeah, he's
and layering multiple themes and different characters, young kids. We see that over and over, and he's just such a masterful filmmaker, I think.
And the other, the movie that we're going to watch tonight is so clearly influenced by this movie, and in the most brilliant way, because I think that it's a ghost story, but it's a ghost story that's set in this orphanage. They're all orphans of war, and so the war itself is playing out on the outside, but they don't understand it. And it's a really excellent way to look at war, is through the eyes of these children who don't have parents anymore, who have no fucking idea why this is happening, and we're not on the right side now? We are on the right side? It's a really great metaphor just for the idiocy of war itself. And of course, it's just gorgeous. And the cast is spectacular.
Yep, and the design of the ghost was inspired by the white-faced spirits of J-horror Ju-on and Ringu.
Nice.
You can definitely see that. And it's Guillermo del Toro has talked about how it was inspired by his own personal memories, especially his relationship with his uncle, who he said supposedly came back as a ghost.
Oh my!
So it makes it very personal, as he always does, and as we said, really wears his feelings on his sleeve, and it just infuses his films with such feeling. And this is this is a great one, and again we'll talk about another one here in a minute. But this is number 3 on our list of The Shadow of War
Which
in
just
horror.
goes to
The
tell
Devil's
you
Backbone.
how great some of these movies are.
Oh,
The Devil's
man.
Backbone is number 3.
Yeah, exactly. And number 2 is actually the one we're going to see tonight. So as usual, we won't talk much about it. This is from 2016. As a mother and daughter struggled to cope with the terrors of the post-revolution, war-torn Tehran of the 1980s, a mysterious evil begins to haunt their home. It's Under the Shadow. Did we already ask how many people have seen this already? 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, 4. Okay, well, good. Looking forward to talking about it after.
And I was talking about this earlier with a couple people. You know, we with Scotty and Michael, who we're so happy to see here tonight, by the way. We program these out, like 6, 8, 12 months in advance. We could never have known how wildly relevant this movie would be today. Mm-hmm. So it's a film about what happens in Iran shortly after the religious right took over the country and eliminated women's rights entirely. And this is a nightmare about that. So it is more relevant today than I might have guessed it would have been when we planned to show it last year.
Yeah.
But it's also, and in that way, even when I saw it the first time 5 years ago, it's very unsettling. More so today.
Yes, very much so. And we'll leave it at that. But we really want to get your thoughts, as usual. Come down after, and we'll discuss in more detail our movie tonight, Under the Shadow from 2016. All right, as usual, we're up against the clock, so we got to get to number 1. And this is the other one by Guillermo del Toro. You can guess. In the Falange Spain of 1944, the bookish young stepdaughter of a sadistic army officer escapes into an eerie but captivating fantasy world in Pan's Labyrinth.
There will be a journey that will make you believe. In darkness, there can be light. In misery, there can be beauty. In death, there can be life. Pan's Labyrinth.
Just an amazing film.
It's
an
a
amazing
masterpiece.
Film. Yeah, you're right. You watch the trailer. It's one of those that go, oh, I could watch that right now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, it is a masterpiece. And another one that is, of course, so infused by the shadow of war, and again, a child and a fantasy world. And there's so many different themes going on in this movie. And I love the story, and I guess this is true. If it is, it's incredible. Del Toro is famous for making just mountains of notes and drawings about things before he turns them into films. And he had a bunch for this that he left in a briefcase or whatever that he left in the back of a cab at one point and thought they were gone forever. And apparently the cabbie tracked him down and returned them all.
Wow.
Of which he thought he never would have been able to make the movie.
Oh, my
without
God.
it. So thanks to that cabbie.
Thanks to that cabbie. Thank you. There's so many things to talk about in this movie, and it's made a lot of our list. So, of course, we talked about Del Toro and what he did with it. We've talked about Doug Jones and how just phenomenal and important he is throughout this entire movie. And we've talked about Ivana Baquero, who plays Ophelia. I don't know if we've talked about Sergi Lopez
He's great.
often enough. This is a guy, he's terrifying in any language. In Dirty Pretty Things in English. With
a friend like Harry.
like Harry in French.
Amazing.
And in this one in Spanish. That guy, he's sneaky, he's creepy.
Yep.
He's so terrifying in this movie. I think that one of the reasons that the fantastical elements work as well as they do is because they're grounded, right? They're balanced by the most horrific reality that that Ophelia must escape. But then also, you just can't get over how, and I think in all of Del Toro's films, and there, so many of them are masterpieces, I don't think he articulates that macabre, beautiful fantasy world anywhere. Maybe no one has as perfectly as he does in this movie.
Yeah, it's quite a
the
ride.
Pale Man, shut the fuck up.
Pale Man, of course, has become iconic for good reason, and a lot of people have dissected the ending for taking what they want from it, for anywhere from religious metaphors to psychological allegories, and he has said, he has been quoted as saying it's really based on a quote by Kierkegaard about the tyrant's reign ends with his death, but the martyr's reign starts with his death, and in choosing to, how you die, you can still live forever. And I think you can definitely see that. That was, from that quote, that was his aim. And I think, of course, once it's out there as art, you can take it in different ways.
Right.
But I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And it's a beautiful film, too.
Oh, it's such a great movie.
Just beautiful. And it's one that, exactly, as you just said, we could watch. As soon as you see the trailer, you're like, yep, I could watch it right now. Okay, we got to get moving. That is number 1 on our list of The Shadow of War. And we've got Under the Shadow to see tonight. Oh, and we also have a short film.
Yes, The Altruist. Now, for those of you who were here a few months back when we showed The Provider, do you remember that one where a guy breaks into these old abandoned houses and he kind of steals these big kind of brain, testicle, goo food things? Okay, well, Matt Smith, who made that one, he made this, The Altruist, which is equally bizarre and magnificent, and we're very excited to show that tonight, and we thank him for letting us do that. And then also we want to remind you to come back next month for Cooties. This is fun. It is a fun piece of nastiness, and we're going to talk about teachers in horror movies, which actually I've already started. It's a lot. There's a lot of opportunities there because I think it's because so many people growing up, you're terrified of teachers, and so then when you start writing horror films, you write what you're afraid of, and so there are a lot of great teacher horror for us to parse through between now and then. Mm-hmm. But it's a really funny movie. But the short film we are going to show is our most recent completed short film. It's called Basement Buddy. Because
filmed in our basement.
That's right, filmed in our basement. A lot of children die in Cooties, and Basement Buddy is about children being trapped in our basement. So we're not going to tell you whether they live or not, but but that's the theme that we're going with: children in peril. In case you just need to know that in advance.
Right.
But the most important thing: no animals die in either film. So
that's right. So that
children, yes.
That
animals,
is next
no.
month. But yeah, we've got the short film, The Altruist, and we've got Under the Shadow. And by all means, stop down after, and we will talk about
Please,
it. Right?
Yes.
All right. So we're ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
So Stan, hit me, and we'll talk to you in about an hour and a half, or so.
Or so.
About an hour and a half or so later.
So we like? That was well done.
Yeah, it
is.
is.
Reminded me. Did we watch it together the first time we saw it? Because it
I can't
started.
recall.
I remember thinking, it started a little slow. It's a little bit of a slow build,
It
but
is.
boy, I was so impressed where it went.
Yes.
Once it got there, and especially now when you were talking about the relevancy and the current climate,
Yes.
shall we say, and the metaphors are just as striking and just as meaningful now.
And terrifying, really.
And terrifying,
I mean, they really
yeah.
are. Yeah, I think
for sure.
I think I do. I think it's incredibly well done. I do want to just point out, so I have on my Middle Eastern horror dress today. This is my A Girl Walks Home Alone Tonight dress, cat included, by the way. I love this movie. I love that one of the things I find really fascinating about it is that, first of all, it's the first feature film from the filmmaker, and second of all, he's a dude. And so anytime a man can write and direct a film it reminded me of Swallow that we showed last year, can create a film that so speaks to like a primal female fear like this one does is very impressive to me.
Yeah, it is. And even little subtle ways, like when she's out without her head covering, and before she gets dressed down by the authority there, they just hold an extra beat on the daughter watching her.
Yes.
Which I thought was, little things like that were important and impressive.
Dorsa, that little face.
Dorsa, yeah.
Oh my God, I don't think she smiled one time.
Holy moly. Absolutely amazing. I'll start off by saying that the Matt Smith is always absolutely grotesque.
Oh, the short film. You're talking about
Yeah.
the short film, The Altruist. Yeah, that's something.
Oh, my goodness. And I was just reminded in this film a little bit of The Babadook.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Poltergeist, I don't know, similar kind of deeply unsettling primal feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And just fantastic movie overall. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Oh, good. Glad you liked it. I think that's a really great point, though, the Babadook and Poltergeist. I think both of those movies and this movie, they really they understand maternal horror. Like those three films, more than most, really understand the tremendous fear of what that a mother can feel at the potential loss of a child.
Mm-hmm. And they also manage a nice little jump scare there too.
They did,
pretty effective.
yes.
Not usually a fan, but that's
no.
pretty.
Also, you don't usually like the dream, wake up from a dream horror.
I don't.
And this does it better than most.
Yeah, I don't. But you're right. Anything can any sort of trope or device can be done well.
For me, there were about a couple great jump scares in there. I really enjoyed this one. Super intense. I really love the effects on what they did with the Jinn. And I really like how Jinn can appear in so many different forms.
I think the last maybe 10 years, we've started to get a handful of films that are centered on the idea of the Jinn. This is, I think, by far the best one. But it's the fact that it's, I hope that this is not a spoiler. I think maybe you can tell in the trailer that it's the form of a burqa is so. I mean, it means everything. It's the most important element in the entire film. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I thought the most scary part of the film was that last scene.
Yes.
Where you see that the Jinn still has her book and the head of the doll.
Yeah.
And then thinking that the real monster in this film is the repressive regime. And even though they're getting away, they're still not getting away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the guy, back to the scene where she's caught without her head covering, where she's told, this is the thing you should fear more than anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, that sequence where she's running terrified with her daughter in her hands because there were people in her apartment. Mm-hmm. And then what does this look about?
Yeah.
That's what
none of that matters.
None of the rest of it matters. To me, that was the scariest part of the movie.
Yeah. It's really handled well. I mean, even though it's clear, it's not you're not beaten about the head.
You don't ever lose the actual ghost story.
Right.
Like the ghost story is still the primary plot device.
Yeah.
Well, I had seen it before, but I only remembered it was good. So when I've seen it again, when I've reminded that the Jinn were wind creatures, and then I started watching for it, and there are so many instances of where it's a closed window, but the curtains are moving.
Right.
And there's the wind, and then you start hearing the wind, and the wind starts freaking you out.
Yeah. I think the sound design in this, and the sound design in The Altruist is great. it's very evocative.
Yeah.
The sound design in this is great. I love the sound of the wind. There are a couple other things I mentioned during the countdown to this that I feel like Devil's Backbone is a clear inspiration for this movie. Mm-hmm. And in the trailer that we show for Devil's Backbone, they say the ghost showed up with the bomb. Something came with the bomb. And I think that that's what this movie took from that. And it's very freaky the way that it transcended the specific war, the culture from one to the other. Mm-hmm. And then all of the X's and the shadows of the X's always make me think of Scorsese's Departed.
Yeah, exactly. But also I liked how they made her, the Jinn went after her little acts of resistance inside her own home. The Jane Fonda tapes.
Jane Fonda tape,
maybe wearing the shirt that's a little, well, of course, for them, way too low cut.
Yeah.
And where she hides those things, and that's where they're gonna get at her because she's rebelling even in her own home.
That's right.
What struck me about this film is how, like so many other great horror movies over the decades, like The Exorcist or Hereditary, how it uses family drama or just real-world drama to really tie it in so closely with the horror itself. It's what's happening as a result of the revolution in Iran, but it's also the things that are happening between her and her daughter.
Right.
This strained relationship that was probably already there, was definitely already there before the appearance of the Jinn. So, you're sort of already building off that anxiety of what's happening with the family unit itself, and then you add in this horrific element of the Jinn, and it just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so true. And that comes back to the comparisons with the Babadook.
For sure.
Because one of the things early on that people always said about the Babadook is that kid is so freaking annoying. Yes, he is, and he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's on purpose.
Yeah.
And you're right. It reminded me of Babadook as well. Also glad.
Call out real quick to Dzek's badass gay Babadook T-shirt today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
it's
done.
Babadook in front of
Done.
the pride flag. Lovely.
And also glad you like The Altruist. And are we going to tell that story real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know. Did we double check? Did y'all like The Altruist? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he was shoveling that stuff, it reminded, because I leaned over to her and I said, whatever that smells like, it doesn't smell as bad as your basement that time. Because when
do you want to hear that story? Because you don't have to hear it.
Okay. Back when her dad was moving out of her childhood home, and how long had your family lived there?
Oh, 45 years.
Okay. So, long story short, there was a serious plumbing problem, and they had a toilet in the basement that was all the way up to the very top with you know what. And it
so when he says
smelled.
that, he means it was like a mountain around it.
Yeah.
It was like a mountain around it. My dad had lived in the house by himself for probably 15 years, and nobody had been, God knows, down his basement in that amount of time. And it was like Chet, right, from Weird Science, until somebody, my oldest brother, broke the sheen of it with a shovel to start getting out. And then all of Tiffin, Ohio smelled like my dad's basement. It was a horror film unto itself.
We had to go there and move him out, and I was convinced, just because of that alone, the only solution was gasoline and a match.
That's right. We all said it. We're like, just burn it to the ground.
That was the only way out.
Let me save those Duran Duran posters, and then after that...
But
gasoline
after we got
match.
all that stuff out of there, and then God bless her oldest brother went back and took care of that mess, and
we all still owe Mick
I still
a great
don't know
deal.
how,
No.
because I know it smelled worse than whatever was in that short film.
I just want you to picture. So my oldest brother, he's like 6'5", about $180. He's just this scrawny man, this real long hair, just as pasty and freckled as he can be, standing in the backyard of my dad's house, literally pouring bleach on his bare arms, these skinny, long hands and arms, just pouring it right out of the jug.
It was so nasty.
Oh, yeah,
it was,
nastiest.
I can't even tell you how nasty it was. It was like staring into the pits of hell. And with that, have a great night. No, we just had to tell that story. Okay, so August the 9th.
That sounds
August
right.
the 9th, yeah, that sounds right. Be back for Fright Club Live. We're going to talk about teachers and
show Cooties.
And show Cooties.
Show our new short film, Basement Buddy.
Right. So we hope to see you then. Thank you so much for coming out. Glad you enjoyed both films.
Remember, you can always keep in touch and join the conversation. Find us on Instagram at Fright Club Live, on Twitter at Fright Club Pod, and we'd love to have you in the private Facebook group. That's Fright Club Podcast.
She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.